They tried and died.
You're dealing with the creme de la creme.
Okay, so we start with the new Pixies album, Beneath the Eyrie.
We're going to go with that pronunciation.
Well,
Apparently there's a wee bit of controversy over how best to spell it. I had no idea what an Eyrie was, if I'm perfectly honest. I thought it had something to do with a church. And interestingly, in an interview that I came across on YouTube that the Pixies did for radio.com music, which was published a day before the album's release, so on the 12th of September, the album itself was released on the 13th. Dave Lovering, the drummer, relates that behind the church there was a bald eagle's nest, and being an avid bird watcher he was pretty stoked by this, and it appears as if this is where the album titles came up from. He was kind of quick to identify that he never came up with the title, but it would appear as if that's where it's come from, and Eyrie is actually an eagle's nest. So that's where it comes from.
Even lined the songs.
There we go. But I've put it to bed. And this is the kind of the Pixies' 7th studio album, 8th if you include the 2018 album, Live from the Fallout Shelter, which I have to admit kind of passed me by, to be honest. I never knew it existed until I kind of looked back in their past discography. But it's just a collection of live music, live tracks.
I was actually surprised that it was only their 7th studio release. I kind of expected... So Pixies have been going, what, since the 80s?
Late 80s.
Late 80s? I kind of just expected them to have more than 7 albums, but I mean 7's still a lot of albums.
It's quite substantial. So Indie Cindy was released, I want to say, off the top of my head, what,
2011 or
2011, something like that. That was their first studio album in something like 23 years. And it was the first album that released without the original bassist, Kim Deal.
Yeah.
So this is their third album, I suppose, since Kim Deal's departure.
Reunited.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, without trying to sound like too much of a knob, I feel like the Pixies are like the quintessential alt-rock band.
Yeah, I would give you that.
I think if you want to explain to somebody what alt-rock is, probably tell them to listen to the Pixies.
Yeah.
It's the as alternative as rock gets, probably.
They're certainly trailblazers, to be honest. I was actually looking back on some of the kind of DVDs that I've got. I've got a DVD. It's kind of, I think it's a collection of their kind of live shows, but it's also got a documentary on it called Gouge Away, where David Bowie's getting interviewed, and he's quite a big fan, and he said that there's a kind of saying with regards to the Velvet Underground, and he believes it to be kind of just as true of the Pixies, that maybe not a lot of people bought, say, the Velvet Underground's albums or the Pixies album, but everybody who did went out and started a band because they wanted to be like the Pixies. And famously Kurt Cobain is kind of quoted in saying that when he wrote Smells Like Teen Spirit, he was basically trying to write a Pixies song. So they've been majorly influential over the last however many years, 20 odd years.
I think Neil Young gets a lot of credit for being the godfather of grunge or whatever, but I think the Pixies have got a lot to answer for as well.
Absolutely.
So, Indie Cindy is the only Pixies album I've ever bought.
Really?
Apart from their greatest hits,
Death
to the
right.
Pixies.
Yeah.
And that Pixies for me are a band that I haven't listened to too much on record. It's all been basically through that Death to the Pixies album, and then just like hitting up individual tracks, really not really listening to the albums as a whole, except for Indie Cindy, which I bought pretty much when it came out on vinyl, and it's pretty good. It's not amazing, but it's not bad. There's some pretty good tracks on it. And then last time you talked about Head Carrier, which I don't think either of us knew existed, and which I still haven't listened to.
It's a pretty throwaway album, to be honest, and I say that as being a pretty die-hard Pixies fan, to be honest. There's a few standout tracks there. Bale's Back, I don't know how you pronounce it. That's the kind of one shouty song on the album. I think every Pixies album that's been released since the departure of Kim Deal has kind of featured a shouty song. Blue Eyed Hex being Indie Cindy's kind of shouty song. I think on Beneath the Eyrie it's the Saint Nazaire? I don't know how you pronounce it.
Yeah, I've written down this is fucking demented rock and roll, man. So I think it's a pretty hefty driving track, and yeah, I think you're right about the shouty, sort of gritty seething, foaming at the mouth kind of vocals.
Which used to be part of the course for the Pixies.
Yeah.
You know, if you listen to Come On Pilgrim, Surfer Rosa and Doolittle, the first two albums, Surfer Rosa, Come On Pilgrim's technically two EPs in one.
Yeah.
It was brought together into the one album. And Doolittle, I mean, Frank Black shouted quite a lot, to be honest, but I just don't think he's capable of that kind of vocal range anymore. But it's still good to hear him kind of crack out a shouty song every now and again. Blue-Eyed Hex off the Indie Cindy album was pretty cracking.
So what are the standout tracks on Beneath the Eyrie for you?
There's a few. I mean, it's funny, I don't know what you kind of made of Beneath the Eyrie, but I felt as if certainly the first maybe 4 or 5 songs felt almost like something from Brothers Grimm. There's a definite gothic kind of element to it.
Catfish Kate is like a
kind of folk ballad almost.
Yeah, and it is like a grim fairy tale, I suppose, because it's about a woman getting kidnapped by a catfish.
Yes.
Then,
well, she's trying to catch the catfish to put in her favourite dish.
Okay.
So the lyric goes, and then the catfish grabbed her by her head and brought her down to his house instead. Something along those lines.
And then I think she battles him and then comes out like wearing him as like a suit.
Yeah, like she comes out part human, part catfish.
with his whiskers for like the belt of her robes or something.
Something like that.
It's a weird song.
It's a bit out there, to be honest, but I mean, it's, you know, the Pixies have always kind of dealt with quite out there kind of subject matter, and like I said, you know, the first 4 or 5 songs certainly did feel like something that a kind of the Brothers Grimm, and kind of when I was doing a wee bit of research for this album again, and that it was actually the interview for NME, I think they were kind of asked what kind of served as inspiration for the album, if there was any kind of theme, and kind of Black Francis, as he's kind of going by just now, he kind of relates that he lost a tooth. Okay. And decided to put it into his black guitar, and apparently it was quite kind of visually arresting. He then started thinking that they would write a goth album. However, he kind of identified that he was thinking more along lines of kind of goth music, and was thinking particularly of kind of writing something along the lines of kind of, you know, Sisters of Mercy. However, this changed from gothic music to being more gothic, if that makes sense. So in keeping with that kind of subject matter. And as I kind of mentioned earlier on when I was kind of talking about Dave Lovering and, you know, finding the kind of eagle's nest and what have you, they actually recorded this album in a church. So when I kind of mentioned there being an eagle's nest behind the church in question is Dreamland Recording Studios, which is apparently a remote converted church in upstate New York, and apparently that kind of helped to serve as kind of an inspiration for the kind of subject matter.
Yeah, I've actually written for track 6, Silver Bullet, I've written down that feels like a Brothers Grimm fairy tale. So I think it, like you obviously highlighted those first 4 tracks, but it does seem to be a running theme. Mm-hmm. In terms of those first 4 tracks, the opener, In the Arms of Mrs. Mark of Cain, is just a real rocking opener, driving drums, clean guitars where they're quite eerie. Mm-hmm. There's some pretty cool vocal lines, and I mean, I had a look at what the Mark of Cain was, because it's from the Bible. And it's like God protecting Cain from his would-be aggressors, and anyone that attacked him would be harmed 7-fold. Interesting to know. I find it quite hard to interpret songs a lot of the time, because lyrics are quite difficult to get to grips with sometimes.
I think especially with the Pixies
are a bit abstract, I think.
Aye. Sometimes
interesting to look at these, and sometimes the names of songs are just because that sounds cool.
It sounds good. It's an interesting collection of words. Certainly, as I said, you know, well, as you said, sorry, there, In the Arms of Mrs. Mark of Cain, you know, the title itself being a kind of biblical reference, like you said, that's always been a kind of staple of Black Francis' writings, and it's kind of came up time and time again over the course of their stuff. I thought it actually sounded quite a lot like some of their previous tracks, and particularly The Happening and All Over the World, which is 2 tracks from their 1990 album, Bossa Nova. However, maybe with a bit more of a kind of driving bass line and kind of a bit more purpose behind it as well. But I thought it was a pretty good opening track, to be honest. Yeah,
I think the following song, On Graveyard Hill, feels like a proper like classic Pixies song with a sort of rumbling bass line and there was this signature screeching Pixies guitars, and it's got like a pretty good sing-along chorus.
Yeah.
There's a few cheeky hand claps thrown in for.
Alright,
for
never
good
noticed
measure.
that, but yeah, cool.
But yeah, that for me kind of stood out as like being, this sounds like the Pixies.
Yeah. That was the first single from
Was
the
that
album.
the first one that came out?
And Catfish Kate followed that after. But yeah, I would agree, definitely in keeping with kind of the more traditional Pixies that we kind of know and love. I thought it was fantastic, to be honest. I definitely thought it was a bit of a kind of return to form, to be honest, from some of the stuff that they've done previously. Interestingly, in that same interview that I kind of mentioned earlier on, the first thing that comes out Black Francis' mouth is this is the album that he's most proud of.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Out of all the stuff that he's done,
interesting.
this is the album that he's most proud of, and he was trying to get back to that kind of acoustic guitar sounds, which was quite prevalent in the first two albums. It doesn't feature in this song, but it features in kind of some of the later
There's
songs.
quite a bit of more acoustic stripped back kind of stuff. I think This Is My Fate is worth talking about, because it's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's sort of bouncy and jaunty, but it's also quite dark at the same time. There's like heavy bass and like bassy like piano, I think, in the background. It's almost like a song to listen to when you're absolutely slaughtered and like fancy just dancing like an absolute idiot.
Yeah. It kind of reminded me of, you know, that scene in Shrek where they go and visit, I think it's like the villain's bar, and Dr. Hook's playing on the piano. Do you know what scene I'm talking about?
Is that
No.
in the first film?
It's in the first or second film, but interestingly, it's Tom Waits. It's a Tom Waits song,
yeah, okay.
and I thought this very much felt like Tom Waits' song. But also, I've written, like you're kind of talking about his kind of jaunty melody. I've written oompa, oompa type melody.
Yeah. I definitely get the Tom Waits comparison.
Yeah,
It's got that. It's definitely got that sort of vibe about it. One thing I've written down is that the song's called "This Is My Fate," and there's sort of lyrics about, you know, it repeats this is my fate, and it almost feels like he's trapped in this situation in, I don't know, in a bar, like having, you know, continually drinking and dancing, and it brought to mind New Year's Eve that we had, where we ended up in a bar at the Bells. And it was just
Gilcomston Steps.
The bar is called the Gilcomston, and it's the most depressing New Year's Eve that I've ever had. Just in this bar full of old men, terrible music, and the most interesting thing that happened was a drunk fell out of his chair
Within about like seconds of us walking through the door.
That's,
and then the barmaid, so the Bells kind of came and went, and the barmaid came from behind the bar, wished everybody Happy New Year, and then was basically saying like, off you go, that's it.
Immediately just thrown out.
That's it, yeah.
So I don't know why it reminded me of that. It just kind of did.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me a wee bit of the Doors song, Whiskey Bar.
Okay.
You know that song? Oh,
I'm not
show
sure if I
me
do.
the way to the next whiskey bar. I'm
Oh,
not going to
yeah,
sing
yeah.
the full song, but
I
yeah,
do know
it's
what you mean.
that kind of same kind of melody, that same kind of feel to it. Interestingly as well, I kind of felt as if it reminded me a bit of a kind of Modest Mouse song, Bukowski.
I've not heard that.
Just this one bit in the Bukowski song, which is quite interesting because I think Modest Mouse would probably cite the Pixies as an influence.
Yeah.
You know.
So I mentioned before Silver Bullet, which I think is probably my favourite song on the album. Just from, it's like a really brooding, slow burner, opens with like a clock ticking, it's really melancholy, and then there's just great melodies through the verse and chorus, and bursts of guitar riffs and screeches, and it's just, I don't know, I just think it's a fantastic song.
See, I think it's interesting you say that because I seem to remember when we were talking about Indie Cindy, you know, when it first came out, Silver Snail was one of your favourite songs.
Yeah.
I haven't really delved into the kind of lyrics of both songs in any great detail, to be honest. However, I kind of get the impression this is maybe a sequel to Silver Snail. I don't know why. I think both songs kind of reference kind of loaded guns, and it almost kind of feels as if Silver Snail, if you remember that, that's almost kind of written from the perspective of the gunman, and this is kind of Silver Bullet is almost written from the perspective of the potential victim.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's my take on that.
I mean, I'd completely forgotten the names of any of the songs on Indie Cindy, but yeah, now that you mention it,
Yeah.
Silver Snail was one of my favourites.
They sound similar, however, I think the kind of tempo in Sulphur Bullet's a bit faster, to be honest.
Yeah. Any other songs of note? We talked about Saint Nazaire. I think that's an absolute belter.
Yeah.
It's just a blistering rock and roll song from start to finish. Any other standouts?
I quite enjoyed the kind of last two tracks as well. Kind of Daniel Boone. Absolutely no idea who Daniel Boone is, to be honest. I've got a feeling he's some sort of 17th century outback pioneer or something like that. I quite enjoyed it. You know, it's not unlike some of the stuff that the Pixies have done previously. It's kind of got that kind of dreamy sound. I would have thought that was maybe the kind of better way of finishing the album, to be honest. However, track 12, the closing track with Death Horizon, which I really enjoyed. I'm not too sure if it really is a Pixies song. It kind of reminded me of something that you might have heard of Frank Black's Honeycomb album, his solo album, which released in 2005, but I enjoyed it nevertheless.
I'm not a big fan of Daniel Boone, to be honest. It's okay. I get his sort of dreamy, acousticy, and I think you're right. It probably would have made more sense as a closing track.
That's what I thought.
Death Horizon. I think Death Horizon is very good, but maybe not as an end track. But it feels like an anthem. I think it's sort of a song that I feel like you could have a group of people all singing it together, and you know, like okay, the lyrics are about sort of death and death coming upon us and that kind of thing, but it felt like something like in a musical fashion, like something you might hear at the end of a feel-good movie when all the family are together singing a little song together.
Yeah.
And musically only, not in terms of lyrics or subject matter. And then I've written down that it's like the end of Bugsy Malone when they're all like sit around the piano. Like, have you seen
Round
Bugsy
Old
Malone?
Joanna years ago. Yeah.
So at the end they're all like, there's a big battle at the end, and then they all kind
Splurge
of
guns.
Yeah, with the splurge
Yeah.
guns, and then they all, like, the guy starts playing the piano, and then they all start singing arm in arm at the end, and it just had that kind of vibe for me. But it's a song about death coming your way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think it's one of the best tracks on the album. I think, but maybe just out of place.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. But yeah, all in all, yeah, a really enjoyable album. It's kind of difficult to pin down what's so good about the Pixies, to be honest. You know, I was kind of struggling because they are my favourite band. Have been for quite some time now, but I don't know what it is that kind of attracts me to them, to be honest. I don't think you can pinpoint any one thing.
They're a surprising band. They don't really settle into any kind of formula.
No.
I think that's why I was sort of saying at the start that they're the quintessential alt-rock band. There's always something surprising.
Mm-hmm.
You never quite get exactly what you would expect on any given album, I would have thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this album, and I think it flows really well. There's some dips in quality, but overall, as a listening experience from start to finish, it's pretty solid.
Yeah. I would agree, man. There are a few tracks. Ready for Love, for example.
Yeah, a little bit
Frank Black
forgettable.
was kind of, Black Francis was kind of felt as if he was kind of phoning it in a wee bit. He
Yeah.
sounded as if he was ready for his bed rather than ready for love, to be honest. But there was a kind of tonal change after that kind of initial kind of chorus, I suppose. And I think, you know, when there has been kind of wee dips, there is dips here and there. I think Joey Santiago's guitar lines kind of, they never fail to deliver, and it kind of just buoys.
That's
up,
true.
to be honest.
Even on the less good songs,
Yeah.
for a better way of saying it, there's bits in it that kind of elevate them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And occasionally, there's a song. This is more a vocal thing. There's a song called "Bird of Prey," and it's got really vivid lyrics. Like there's Frank Black talks about. He says, "I'll set my broken bone with a twist and a crack."
Yeah.
And it's the sort of feeling that evokes is very vivid.
Aye. And I suppose again that's in keeping with the kind of, as we said, that kind of gothic theme, because it then goes on to say, now your cover's blown, you buried me, but I came back. I can't quite remember how it carries on after that. It's something about you stole my yesterday or something like that. It's about seeking revenge anyway. But
yeah, overall a good album. Do you want to give it a rating?
Yeah. So it's an album I've really enjoyed. I've came back to time again. So I'm solid 5 out of 10. No, honestly, I think I want to say probably 8 or 9 out of 10 to be honest. But I'm a bit biased because it's the Pixies, so I'm never gonna rate them poorly. I don't think.
Yeah, I love the Pixies. I'm not a super fan. I haven't heard all of their albums, but I do like them a hell of a lot. I think this is a solid 8, maybe pushing a 9 as well, like you say. And I think it's somewhat of a return to form.
I would definitely agree with you there. Yeah, definitely agree with you.
This drink is tranquilizing. Just look at